in Raleigh. It's Nick Petro with a tropical storm Nicole briefing as it relates to central North Carolina. Hello again, it's Wednesday, November the 9th, 4:30 p.m. briefing. And if you've been following our briefings that we've been posting on our webpage and email and social media and various places we post these, this briefing, you'll notice a slight adjustment to rainfall amounts, downward that is, and a slight decrease in the highest wind gusts. So that's generally all good news, right? But unfortunately, all the news is not good. And you'll see here in just a minute what I think is the biggest concern. But just a little background a little bit of background here. This is the 4 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center of Nicole, and you can see it's basically over the northern Bahamas, getting ready to, or will be moving onshore of the Florida, East Florida coast there, somewhere between Cape Canaveral and Miami, and then basically crossing the peninsula and then making a turn to the north. And what's left of Nicole probably being a post-tropical depression by the time it gets up in our neck of the woods by Friday afternoon. And, even though it'll be post-tropical and depression, there's still going to be a lot of energy in the atmosphere, and that could set us up for probably an intense thunderstorm type situation with a line of storms moving through. But I'll get to that here in a minute. Actually, this kind of conveys the thinking right now. We think overall wind threat, the overall wind, not the thunderstorm wind threat, but just the background winds. So if you remove the rain and thunderstorm and the winds associated with that, just the background wind we expect to be fairly low. We have been trending down the risk for rainfall and flash flooding. The track of the storm has been shifting, the track of the center, that is, has been shifting westward over the last couple of days. And in this particular type of situation, when a tropical cyclone is merging with a large trough coming in from the west, usually the heaviest rain basically favors the west side of the center of the low. And with the center of the low tracking to our west, we're on the east side, which is the drier side, if you will, in this particular setup. So we think that'll at least minimize the heavy rainfall and flash flooding threat. Therefore, there's no river flooding threat. We think the biggest risk with this event for us may in fact be severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. And that's where we're basically putting most of our, if not all of our concern into the tornado threat aspect of this situation. Possibly as early as tomorrow evening, but more likely for us in central North Carolina on Friday. All right, so a little bit more details here. What do we expect overall background winds? Well, 20 to maybe 30 mile per hour wind gusts, and typically wind magnitudes of 20 to 30 usually do not cause many problems. So we don't think there's going to be, like we had with Ian, where there was just, widespread power outages and numerous trees down. But there could be some gusts, 20 to 30. I know that might blow over maybe a garbage can or something like that, but I don't expect a whole lot of trees down with background winds. Moving on to rainfall, 1 to 2 inches of rain. The heaviest rain and any kind of risk for any sort of poor drainage flooding would be mainly west or westward across central North Carolina, particularly across the Triad and points west of even the Triad. And that'll be, the rain will start falling tomorrow evening, Thursday evening, and lasting through Friday evening before it all exits by Saturday morning. Again, the main thing we're concerned with is localized pockets of intense wind damage due to tornadoes. And we think that'll be mainly south and east of the triangle late Thursday, more like Thursday evening, and then anywhere across central North Carolina Friday through Friday evening. So that's our main concerns. How much rain? Well, here's our latest rainfall update, and you can see, from the Triad westward is where we expect the heaviest rain to fall, and even there 2 inches. I think I would say rainfall of these amounts here, where you're seeing 1 to maybe 2 inches of rain, we can handle that. I mean, it's starting to turn dry again, across central North Carolina. this past summer was dry. Then we sort of caught up a little bit when Ian came through, and then we started to dry out again. So we can handle 1 or 2 inches of rain anytime, even when you're in a drought. Anytime you dump an inch of rain in a short amount of time, you could still have very localized, poor drainage, flooding type situations. But again, I don't think that's going to be a huge deal. The typical spots that collect water when you have heavy downpours, yeah, that'll happen again. But in terms of any kind of widespread flash flooding, it looks like any of that would be mainly from west of the Triad, basically. And that's depicted in this graphic right here. This is our flash flood outlook. We also call this the excessive rain outlook, and this is for Thursday and Friday. And you can see the area highlighted green shows areas that have a marginal risk for flash flooding. So again, that's basically Winston-Salem, Salisbury, Charlotte westward tomorrow, and that would be for late tomorrow. And then on Friday, it's basically Greensboro to Salisbury to Charlotte westward. And once you get into the foothills of mountains, that's where probably the better risk of flash flooding would be, where it's highlighted yellow there. So again, I think most of us will be okay when regarding the flash flooding risk. Obviously, no river flooding. This is again, and again, I'm starting to sound like a broken record here, but this is our main concern: is the risk for severe weather, tornadoes. Tomorrow looks like the best chance for any type of severe weather, isolated spin-up tornadoes would be mainly south and east of Raleigh, again late in the day, and then pretty much anywhere across central North Carolina on Friday and Friday evening. So I'll show you a radar simulation here in just a minute. But overall, our confidence is fairly high. We don't think there's going to be real problems with regard to background winds. Will there be problems with thunderstorm winds? Possibly, yeah. And again, it's hard to say at this point how high the winds would be with these localized intense thunderstorms. But obviously, a tornado is a tornado, right? I mean, that's an intense wind. So, but that's going to be very localized. And then again, 1 to 2 inches of rain, we could handle that. Again, if an inch of rain falls in 30 minutes, yeah, there's going to be poor drainage, localized flooding. So we can't rule that out. But certainly, any kind of widespread flash flooding, we're not anticipating at this point. Again, thanks to the track having shifted westward. Now, and again, the tornado risk is what we're mostly concerned about. So anyway, that does it for my PowerPoint slides. That doesn't do it for the briefing. Hang on here. I'm going to show you some radar simulations. But I just want to remind folks that we're going to do another live webinar tomorrow, just like this. We're going to do another live webinar on Thursday at 11:30. That's our usual Thursday briefing. But on this slide here, it says Thursday by 7 a.m. Well, that means when you're going to get the next set of PowerPoint slides. So our goal is to have our midnight shift update these slides and send them out. And then I'll update them again tomorrow morning, and then right before we do the 11:30 webinar. So anyway, that's our webinar schedule. Let me switch over to some model data. And all the models are coming into a better agreement. So it doesn't matter at this point almost which model I show. But I'm going to show this particular model because I think it conceptually matches what I think the timing is going to be. Yeah. So anyway, let's just jump right into it. So this is essentially current time would be roughly right there. That's obviously what's more or less happening now. And then as we step forward in time, and I'll show you here right about there is when we expect that first sort of decent batch of rain, and you can kind of see it right here, right where I have it highlighted. Let me get rid of that highlighting. Right there, that first batch, the time listed here is 20 UTC on Thursday. And 20 UTC on Thursday equates to 4 p.m. actually. About this time tomorrow is when we're going to see that very first batch, if you will, of outer band from what's left over of Nicole come in, mainly south of Raleigh, south of the Triad, mainly from Fayetteville over to Wadesboro and points in between. we'll start to see that rain. And then you'll see that rain gradually lifts to the north. And let me back up here. So I'm going to back up, and it's possible that, if you noticed in my PowerPoint slides, okay, and let me back up to the severe weather graphic, you'll see how the Storm Prediction Center, and if I can find my highlighter, there's my highlighter. Okay, look, notice how here is where the greatest risk for severe weather is, right? The southeast part of North Carolina for tomorrow. Now, what I think that's trying to show is the severe weather threat associated with this batch of rain moving in right here. And you'll notice even this model tries to show some, higher intensities coming in during the late afternoon and evening tomorrow. Okay, so that's why we think, the greater risk for severe storms tomorrow, maybe an isolated tornado, is mainly across southeast North Carolina with that sort of first heavier batch. And then that weakens as it moves into a very stable air mass across the Piedmont of North Carolina. So anyway, it's, when it comes to tropical cyclone related tornadoes, you need every bit of warmth and humidity you can get. And the further you go west into North Carolina, the more stable and the lesser of those ingredients you'll find, and at least early on. And then, but watch as we head through. This is this time frame right here is 9 p.m. tomorrow, 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Notice how, there's a few isolated showers here and there, but what I'm looking for is the next batch, the next band to come through. And you'll see this time frame right here, that is 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. Look at that band. That band is a pretty intense band. And that makes sense, right? Because the flow around Nicole is more from the south, which brings in warmer air further inland. And then there's converging air streams helping to boost the intensity, if you will, of this band. And it's possible that this band right here, which if this timing is right, will be sometime during the morning commute on Friday, could have a few isolated spin-ups with it. Okay, I'm not saying there's going to be widespread activity with tornadoes, but again, since it's rooted in a tropical cyclone type system, they're very brief, very quick hitting. They don't last as long. Fortunately, they tend to be pretty weak. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see, who knows, maybe even a tornado watch, maybe a few tornado warnings here and there when we see these little spin-ups on radar. But if this comes to pass, then that would be a risk for some intense storms on Friday morning around the commute time. So anyway, that's one time frame and one area that I'm concerned about. Let me erase this and go back. And then as we go forward in time, that lifts north and that moves into eastern North Carolina. And then we get a break. That time frame right there is about midday, noon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And then we start to see finally another band, this heavy band right here. Now what's happening with that band is the storm system, what's left over of Nicole, is getting absorbed into an existing trough system, an existing frontal system that is basically absorbing Nicole into it. So it's transitioning into more of a sort of, as we call it, a convective system, a thunderstorm system, a line of strong thunderstorms, almost like what sometimes we refer to as a prefrontal trough or prefrontal line of storms. And as this line basically moves eastward across central North Carolina, and by the way, this time frame right here, this is 4 p.m. Friday, 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and that's as far out actually as this model goes. So I apologize, I can't show you further out beyond 7 or 8 p.m. But suffice it to say, it's drying out behind it, and this line should be gone by midnight, Friday night into Saturday morning. This band, however, we are concerned that it could have some not only isolated tornadoes, but some localized pockets of enhanced straight line winds. So almost like a straight line wind threat I mean, think of this as almost like a springtime severe thunderstorm line, squall line moving through. And so, you know, rather than sort of the traditional, you know, area-wide wind gusts, heavy rains that you would often see with a tropical cyclone, this is almost like taking on like a springtime severe thunderstorm line type scenario. So anyway, yeah, so that would be basically any time from late afternoon through the evening hours across central North Carolina for this third and final band of intense thunderstorms. So remember, we get 3 bands of it. The first band, as I back up, 3 primary bands. Yeah, it could rain anytime in between those bands, but the first band is tomorrow late in the day, late in the afternoon, about this time tomorrow, actually, with this band right here. This would be late afternoon into early evening as it moves in from offshore and lifts north and dissipates in the stable air. And then the air becomes unstable as the low-level winds become from the south, and we get this second band, if you will, Friday morning during the morning commute across central North Carolina. Again, this band could have some localized, quick-hitting, brief spin-up tornadoes. And then finally, the finale, if you will be this more intense squall line that will move through sometime during the late afternoon and evening hours from west to east across central North Carolina. That would be basically any time from the late Friday, the afternoon, evening commute, right on through the evening hours. And then finally, everything will exit. And let me switch models so we can go a little bit further out in time. This is basically a lower resolution model. This is the GFS model, but it basically shows the same thing. Here is about the same time. That time frame right there is just after midnight Saturday morning, and then by sunrise Saturday, it's gone. Everything's gone. It's a little breezy from the northwest, and it will begin turning cooler. Right in here, we have a cold front moving through, and unfortunately, my highlighter is not working really well, but there's going to be a cold front right in here, and that time frame is midday. So about midday on, you're going to see temperatures start to fall. But dry. A little breezy from the northwest and then north on Saturday. All right, so anyway, I hope that sort of conveys my main concern, and I'll be sending out these slides here as soon as I get this all packaged up. But again, the yellow areas and the darker green areas for late Thursday is where we think the best risk for, you know, damaging thunderstorms, maybe isolated tornadoes, and then pretty much anywhere across central and eastern North Carolina on Friday. Again, 2 batches on Friday, 1 in the morning and 1 in the late afternoon and evening. So anyway, that is sort of the summary, if you will, for this 4:30 briefing here on this Wednesday, the 9th of November here for Central North Carolina.